A weird sound coming from the water led these fishermen to an unbelievable sight. Fishing is one of the most recreational and relaxing activities in the whole world. One who's tried it even once can agree with the fact that the job of fisherman is not that easy as it seems. Being a fisherman, you have to always be ready for witnessing strange and surprising things being pulled by the end of your hook. But what two fishermen from Canada witnessed while fishing will surely leave you gasping for breath. Watch on to find out. Obviously, the first thing popping into mind when thinking about Ontario, Canada's most populous province, are the mighty and magnificent Niagara Falls. But someone who resides there or has visited it even once will surely describe it as a place with beauty and abundance of all sorts. Serene and awe-inspiring landscapes, amicable natives, and street food making it one of the best travel sites in Canada. But who knew that it would also house one of the strangest sights that anyone can witness? If you're a passionate fisher, then Ontario is the place you should surely visit. The reason being its various fishing operations on exotic and famous lakes. Some of the best fishing resorts in Ontario give you the chance of fishing on Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, Lake Scugog, and Lake Simcoe. Not only this, these operations, which witness natives and tourists from all over the world getting enrolled, also provide them the experience of world's best fly fishing trips. Well, after all this comes the scary fact that the incident going to be talked about started with just a simple fishing trip. It was May 17, 2015 when two fishermen friends decided to visit a lake near Field, Ontario to do the thing they love the most, which is obviously fishing. It wasn't something new for them as such trips were a part of their routine. Little did they know that this trip of theirs was going to make them experience something completely different and sinister from their previous ventures. They'd expected to catch a few walleyes, smallmouth bases, northern pikes, or whitefish swimming in the characteristic chilled water of the lake, which form a big chunk of Canada's seafood exports. But instead of that, they stumbled upon something that they would not have thought of in their wildest dreams. To be honest, the fishermen had a premonition of the actual encounter because of the blood-curdling sound they heard while fishing. The fishing trip took a really terrifying turn when both the fishermen heard something which seemed like a high-pitched cry. The fisherman was sure of one thing after hearing the sound, that it didn't come out of a northern pike or a walleye. They also realized that the sound came from somewhere near the store, so they moved towards it in order to clear the air of mystery and horror. On reaching the spot where the cry seemed to come from, the fishermen saw a sight which literally blew their mind. Obviously, the sight of a baby moose in a lake filled with ice-cold water intended for fishing can drive anyone crazy. The fishermen moved towards him without wasting any time, perplexed from the inside about the whole situation. But soon all their doubts were going to get cleared. The fishermen became sure that it was the baby moose who had been giving cries in distress that they heard earlier, seeing the pitiful state of the animal. One can get an idea of the amount of fear and state of panic the creature was in just by taking a mere look at its face. The fishermen jumped into action and decided to move their boat towards him and escort the moose out of the cold lake, which was claiming his life with each passing moment. But as they moved forward, they realized that there was someone else near the baby moose, which left them completely alarmed. What was it that left them pondering before taking any further action? Yes, it was the little moose's mother, which was proving to be the main problem for the fishermen to rescue the baby animal. If you take a close look at the image, you can see the mother standing in the bushes, and this was the exact view that the fishermen had at that moment. You might be wondering, how is that possible? Well, all your doubts will be cleared once you find out what happened when the boat got too close to the baby moose. The presence of the mother moose had started to become a reason for worry and frustration in the minds of the helpful and brave fishermen. They'd got a hold of the whole situation and knew that the mother was unable to help her child with all her efforts going in vain, credited to the peculiar and difficult position her child was stuck in. It was her basic instinct and nature that was jeopardizing her child's life and coming in the way of the efforts of the fishermen who were trying desperately to save the little animal. But why and how? Moose, which are most commonly found in the boreal forests of Canada and Alaska, are known to be very slow-moving and sedentary in nature. But when it comes to female moose, this nature of theirs can instantly turn into a totally aggressive and pacey one. Even the slightest sense of danger, especially when it hovers around their little ones. The mother moose being talked about here showcased something similar, but unfortunately this time it was serving the purpose of something completely opposite of helping her child. The fishermen were determined to help the animal and move forward towards him, but instantly noticed that an infuriated mama moose started charging towards them. It was obvious that her action was a protective measure, considering the fishermen as a threat. What do you think happened next? The expressions on its face and the way the mother moose charged towards the fisherman was enough for them to realize the fact that it was extremely angry. They knew that the task of saving the baby moose was very risky, as the probability of the angry moose hitting the boat and hurting them was high. Considering all these facts, they resorted to a shocking decision. "We decided it was best to let nature take its course by letting the mama help her young," said one of the fishermen. Surely it was an extremely tough decision that they both made, surrendering before the situation. Consequently, they paddled away, leaving behind the drowning moose and his angry mother. But if you think that the story gets over here, then surely drop that thought, as what happened next is dramatic and unbelievable to its core. After retreating back from that frantic and sad sight, the fishermen started doing their job of fishing and catching some food, the motive with which they had come to the lake originally. Though they kept on doing this for a couple of hours, the image of the helpless and frightened animal couldn't disappear from their minds. Eventually, they decided to head back and help the baby moose, but were they able to do so? They both started to paddle their boat towards the exact same spot where they'd spotted the baby moose a few hours earlier. The constant thought of saving the baby moose and whether they had taken the right decision to leave it on his own with his helpless mother lingered in their minds. Unfortunately, they were not at all aware and prepared for the sight they witnessed on reaching there. The fishermen were already aware of the fact that the mama moose was incapable of helping her child. But not for once before leaving them had they thought the mother moose will just leave him there to die. This was the exact sight they witnessed on reaching the spot, which totally shook them. Luckily, the fishermen calmed their nerves and emotions, knowing exactly what was to be done next. The main cause of worry for them was the amount of time left before the baby moose succumbs to the deadly condition. They'd carried with themselves some basic fishing gear and a few other things which they hoped would come in handy in saving the moose. But it wasn't going to be a cakewalk saving the moose, something which became evident with what the fishermen saw next. The mama was nowhere to be found, the man continued, but the baby moose was still whimpering and struggling to get on shore. It had been over an hour since the poor moose started to fight for its life, but now it was imperative to help him out as he was on the brink of giving up his courage and will to live. "We noticed the calf was extremely exhausted because he started to blow bubbles out of his nose," the fisherman wrote. This meant that it was time to hop into action without thinking for a second. It was obvious that he wasn't going to survive much longer on his own. The fisherman had reached very close to the baby moose. It was already stuck in a very bad state, and the fact that his mother left made him completely alone and scared. This was the reason for him trying to run away on seeing the approaching fisherman. But his inability to move because he was exhausted proved beneficial for him. Find out how? One of the fishermen, on reaching close to the moose, made him his mind of picking it up. He didn't care or thought about anything except for saving the little animal. Though it was clear that he was at the risk of being bitten by the baby moose or landing straight inside the freezing lake, but the brave man decided to give it a shot. Fortunately, the man was able to take control of the scared animal. The moose was moving frantically while being pulled out of the muddy water. But this interesting and rare incident had one last twist left. The baby moose was not able to comprehend the fact that the men were trying to help him, and despite being completely exhausted, he tried his fullest to run away. The fishermen were noticing all this and realized the moose was trying to run for the shore in search of his mother. So was he able to be reunited with her? The fishermen were left distraught, seeing no signs of mama moose near the area. They had no idea what to do with the baby moose, who was in immediate need of his mother's care. Nonetheless, this is what the fishermen did next. The fishermen decided to take matters into their hands and started petting and talking to him. They did this to make the moose feel comfortable and safe in their company. Though these efforts were proving to be helpful, they still hadn't figured out what to do with him. Suddenly, an idea struck their mind. They pondered upon the whole situation and came to the conclusion that it was best to leave the baby moose out in the wild, hoping that he would reunite with his mother. They just prayed for the little moose, being aware of the place to find its mother. Finally, the baby moose, who a few hours ago saw himself swinging between life and death, was finally safe and free to wander in the woods. We as watchers can only hope that he found his mother quickly, as it was the best thing that could happen to him at that point. We can't say whether the baby moose reunited with his mother or not, but one thing is for sure, that this incident teaches us a lot. The fishermen displayed virtues of bravery and kindness in a commendable way. Not many would have taken the risk that they took in order to save the life of an innocent little animal. We should all try to embrace the fact that it is by helping others in times of need that one becomes great, paving the way to a better life for himself. Moreover, acts like these are needed to save wildlife, which is in danger. The establishment of animal rescue charities needs to be encouraged.